In the Vietnam War, Navy SEALs recorded a kill ratio of 200 enemy dead for every single SEAL lost in combat. One of the most staggering examples of asymmetric warfare in modern military history. What kind of men produce numbers like that? And what were they actually doing in the jungle? The answer begins with a presidential order, and with a swamp no conventional soldier could survive. On January 1st, 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a classified memorandum that changed the course of American warfare. The order called for the creation of a new kind of unit, small, surgical, and built for the kind of war no general wanted to fight. SEAL Teams 1 and 2 were born from this directive, carved out of the old underwater demolition teams and sent to the edge of human endurance. The men who answered that call faced a test so severe that most would never make it through the gates. At Coronado, the first BUDS classes began. 85 men lined up for Class 1. By the end of Hell Week, only 18 remained. The others had either wrung out or been carried off the beach, casualties of sleep deprivation, hypothermia, and relentless physical punishment. The official Navy records from 1963 to 1965 show a dropout rate as high as 80%. Hell Week was 5 days of continuous movement, forced marches, boat carries, surf torture, and endless runs under the cold Pacific sky. The instructors, many of them veterans of Korea, pushed candidates to the brink, looking not for the strongest, but for those who would not break. Dick Couch, a SEAL who survived that crucible and later chronicled it, wrote the line, "The only easy day was yesterday." His words became the unofficial motto of the teams. The intent was clear. If a man could survive Hell Week, he could survive the chaos of the Mekong Delta. Kennedy's vision was not just to field a new unit, but to engineer a breed of operator capable of thriving where conventional forces would fail. Every man who emerged from BUDS was a volunteer, tested and selected by a system designed to weed out all but the most relentless. This was the foundation for what would become the most lethal small unit in the Vietnam conflict. The Mekong Delta was a world apart, 2,500 square miles of flooded rice paddies, tangled mangrove swamps, and narrow winding rivers that swallowed sound and light. For the men of SEAL Teams 1 and 2, this was the battlefield that demanded new rules and new instincts. The Delta's geography offered no clear lines, only shifting water and mud that could turn solid ground into a trap with the next tide. American armor bogged down, helicopters gave away their presence, and even the local ARVN units hesitated to move at night. But SEALs, trained to disappear, learned to read the Delta's hidden paths. Night after night, small teams slid silently from riverine boats, faces streaked with green and black paint, gear wrapped in rags to muffle every sound. The Vietnamese called them Dak Cong Nguoi Nhai, the special force men with painted faces. In the dark, even the Viet Cong were unsure where the next strike would come from. Local guerrillas whispered of bounties on SEALs, but few dared to pursue them. The river was both highway and hiding place. SEALs used the tides to drift past enemy sentries, paddling with hands instead of oars, slipping into hamlets where the only warning was the sudden flash of gunfire. Every movement was calculated. One wrong step in the mud could mean death or compromise. The Delta's maze forced the teams to abandon conventional tactics. They mapped the waterways by memory, used the moon's phases to time their raids, and relied on intelligence from Vietnamese allies who understood which villages harbored Viet Cong and which hid only terrified farmers. The Delta shaped the SEALs as much as any training. It turned them into ghosts, unpredictable, silent, and lethal. The environment itself became a weapon, amplifying the fear and uncertainty that followed every mission. In this place, Survival meant adapting to a war with no front lines and no mercy, where the only certainty was the darkness pressing in from all sides. A single number sits at the heart of the Phoenix program: 20,000. That is the official count of Viet Cong infrastructure neutralized between 1968 and 1972, a figure drawn from CIA ledgers and echoed in congressional hearings. But within that number lies a tangle of definitions: capture, defection, and death, all collapsed into a single tally. SEAL Teams 1 and 2 operated inside this system, not as outsiders, but as direct action specialists embedded with provincial reconnaissance units known as PRU units. These were small, heavily armed teams, financed and directed by the CIA, tasked with finding and eliminating the shadow network that sustained the insurgency. Declassified CYA directives show SEAL advisors reporting through the agency's operational chain, bypassing traditional military command. Orders placed Team 1 operators with PRU-6 in the Mekong Delta and Team 2 men with PRU-23 in the Central Highlands. Their missions blurred the boundary between military action and covert policing. SEALs led raids on suspected VC-1 safe houses, interrogated prisoners, and trained PRU squads in the art of night assault. After each operation, outcomes were logged into the PRU neutralization ledger: a name, a fate, a brief note on whether the target was captured, killed, or persuaded to defect. The process was clinical on paper. Intelligence fusion centers validated targets, neutralization boards signed off, and after-action reports moved up the chain to the CIA Phoenix headquarters. Yet the reality on the ground was far less precise. Congressional testimony from 1971 describes rules of engagement that allowed lethal force against confirmed VCY, but demanded documentation for every arrest. Civilian detentions, mistaken identity, and deaths in crossfire became the gray areas that haunted the program's legacy. Investigators like Douglas Valentine and legal scholars such as Professor Solis have pored over the same documents, tracing the chain of command and the legal framing that shielded SEALs and their PRU partners from prosecution. The official record clears SEALs of criminal wrongdoing, but the moral ambiguity remains. Every entry in the Phoenix Ledger is a reminder. In the war's most secretive chapter, the line between counterinsurgency and assassination was measured not by law, but by the cold arithmetic of neutralization counts. At 0200 hours, the river barely moves, a strip of black glass. 12 men from Mike Platoon, SEAL Team 2, crouch low in a fiberglass boat. Faces are streaked with paint, weapons taped to keep them silent. The target is a Viet Cong safe house hidden behind nipa palms 2 kilometers inland. No one speaks, only the sound of hands pushing the boat forward, boots slipping into the muck as they reach shore. Each man moves in single file, following the CEK method, which stands for Confirmed Enemy Killed. It is drilled into muscle memory, visual confirmation, 2 witnesses, and physical evidence. Every action is recorded, every outcome destined for the Phoenix program ledger. There is no room for error or guesswork. The approach is slow, every movement calculated. At the edge of the hamlet, the point man signals movement ahead. The SEALs fan out, each covering a sector. The breach is sudden. A door crashes open, a flashbang explodes, gunfire erupts in the dark, smoke and shouting fill the air. In less than 3 minutes, it is over. 7 bodies lie on the ground, 2 clutch rifles. 1 man, wounded, moans in the corner. The team leader orders a quick search. Documents, weapons, radio codes, everything is bagged and tagged. After-action protocol is precise. Each body is checked, wounds photographed, the kill count double-signed by the nearest 2 men. The living prisoner is zip-tied and blindfolded. Withdrawal is as silent as arrival. By 0315 hours, the team is back in the boat, drifting into the Delta maze. The official report, archived under Mike Platoon, records 7 enemy killed, 1 captured, 0 SEAL casualties. Over 6 months, this platoon logs more than 70 confirmed kills. Each number starts with a body and ends with a signature, feeding a system that measures success in enemy dead, while the memory of the raid lingers long after the paperwork is filed. A reconnaissance team slips across the border, guided only by the faint glow of distant lanterns and the crackle of intercepted radio signals. Their mission is clear: locate American prisoners of war rumored to be held in a North Vietnamese camp outside Son Tay. The intelligence is sound. Recent aerial photos, human sources, and SEAL-gathered ground recon all point to the same coordinates. Weeks of planning follow, each detail scrutinized by analysts and commanders. When the order finally comes, the raiders move in with surgical precision. But as dawn breaks over the compound, the truth emerges. Every cell is empty. Prisoners had been moved days before the assault. The operation stands as a rare moment where perfect intelligence and flawless execution collide with the unpredictable reality of war. Success on paper, but nothing to show for it except the echo of empty cells and the weight of what might have been. 48 SEALs did not come home from Vietnam. Out of nearly 3,000 men who cycled through Teams 1 and 2, their names are etched into memorials, but their stories are often sealed behind redacted files and missing after-action reports. For every SEAL lost, the official tally claims hundreds of enemy dead, but the arithmetic never counted the weight of memory. Most veterans returned carrying wounds that did not show. Nightmares, sudden rage, and the feeling that the war followed them into civilian life were common. Post-traumatic stress disorder was not recognized by the medical establishment until 1980. Until then, silence was the rule. Many missions remain classified, and even now requests for records come back with entire pages blacked out. The cost of secrecy was measured not only in lives, but in the burden of stories that could never be told. Tactics forged in the Mekong Delta outlasted the war. Intelligence-driven raids, small unit night strikes, and the method of dismantling enemy networks by name became the foundation of modern special operations. The SEAL ethos of relentless pursuit, precise violence, and enforced silence draws a straight line back to Vietnam's shadow. But the legacy remains unsettled. The Phoenix program approach is still dissected in military academies and policy debates, its effectiveness weighed against its ethical price. The same strategies that delivered unmatched kill ratios also blurred the line between war and assassination, leaving questions that refuse to fade. The story of SEAL Teams 1 and 2 in Vietnam is more than a military chapter. It reflects the unresolved debate over how far a nation should go when fighting an enemy who disappears into the night. Even now, key SEAL operations from Vietnam remain classified, their true scope locked behind decades of secrecy. As new conflicts echo old tactics, the boundaries of shadow warfare keep expanding. What we choose to remember or conceal still shapes how wars are fought and how their scars endure. Into the night. Even now, key SEAL operations from Vietnam remain classified, their true scope locked behind decades of secrecy. As new conflicts echo old tactics, the boundaries of shadow warfare keep expanding. What we choose to remember or conceal still shapes how wars are fought and how their scars endure.